Hi, YouTube. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing okay. I just got through a little bit ago fixing Doug's computer because his screen rotated. His cat laid on the keyboard and did something, and the mouse wouldn't work. It was freaking crazy. So I looked up a video on YouTube and I was able to remedy the situation, but it was a little weird. So anyway, yeah, I've been watching videos on a young guy named Steven has a YouTube channel called Surviving Schizophrenia, and my oldest son has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Well, like we've talked. I mean, there's some people, even working in uh the mental health care field. I'm not a licensed psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm a trained paraprofessional and a counselor and a minister. And I would come to the table with knowing that there's an interjection in people, either from the demonic force or God. But now I'm listening to the father's perspective on his psychosis, because Stephen believes, or did believe, he still has thoughts where there's a war of the gods going on, and they were like after him. Like, that is how he was thinking when he was like from 13 right up until I think he's about 23 now. So certain things that happened to him and happened to his mother correlate a lot with what happened, like with Luke. Not only, I mean, but it's weird getting hit in the head with a ball and both wearing glasses. That's number one. Maybe front temporal lobe damage. Okay, even without that, his mother was in labor for like 3 days, like I was also, which will deprive the child from air, food, just all kinds of trauma before the child is even born, and the mother and the baby become in jeopardy. They're both in turmoil during that time. Just a couple of things that I recognized that with these people that I had in common with his mother. I cannot prove that I technically don't believe in schizophrenia and that there actually is a war of the souls going on. So now I am highly concerned for everybody involved on the planet. If we're not bringing in the spiritual warfare that affects people into their mental illness, psychosis. I mean, if you have somebody, if you take your child to a psychiatrist that doesn't believe in God, the care that that child gets is not going to involve that. It's not going to involve the care with God in mind during that care. They ended up, like the kid would have headaches and anxiety and different things like maybe you or I have lived through and worked through, knowing that we had been attacked in different ways in our lives. Wow, this is just quite the mess on this planet. How do we help people realize, yeah, there could be a certain amount of hallucinations and psychotic breaks, but to just And medication, I'm not against medication for medicating people that need, like, especially if they're in a psychotic break or something like that. But I don't know, it's just so strange, the idiosyncrasies in the correlating things. I don't know. I don't know. I do know um, my oldest son had some really bad accidents in his life and some really bad things happened to him. So, like, suffering really bad traumas can make you kind of like gone. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting though that the father first, I mean, the kid had been in a parochial school, a Catholic elementary school, I mean, like his entire life. So this was, I don't, I don't, I hate to say this, so here goes. I don't actually consider Catholics Christian. They're Catholics, but Christianity is a little bit different from the Church of Rome. But so, I mean, like on that note, no offense if anybody from that family watches me, but I know what I'm talking about too because I also went to Catholic school um, for some time. Uh, but professing of God and raising your child in the eyes of God in the church and then leaving God out of the care of that child. I'm not saying that's what they're doing entirely or that's what it is because I don't know personally the psychiatrist that's caring for this person. I just know that I have somebody in my life affected by this illness and I'm trying to learn more about it. But I do believe in the spiritual warfare. So, what does that make me psychotic? Because I see now this is where it becomes something else for the people of God. And people would say, "Oh, like you hear voices." No, it's my instincts, my soul, um, that talks to me. That's of Christ, like you or I or anybody like that. But the mind skull technology from the Masonic order and stuff. Now I don't know his parents, and it could be. And I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe they're demonic. Maybe they want to keep their son at home like an invalid for the rest of their lives, regardless of what happens to him in the future. I don't know. I don't know these people. I'm just speaking my mind because how can you go from raising your child in the eyes of God to omitting God out of the care of that child because not everything's physical? I don't know. I don't know. I'm part of schizophrenia, hearing voices. That's not the only thing. Like I said, anxiety. I was watching a video last night that I had shared on how like the size of their iris and their pupils and different things, that a study that was done in England, how they could tell by the person's eyes whether or not um, they had schizophrenia. And maybe with that study or different studies that they could catch this, it's usually a young adult onset of schizophrenia is typically, like, I think if I remember right, it's something um, like 20s, in your 20s and 30s, And for somebody to have, like, be 13 years old and have this onset is really rare. But I'm wondering, how rare is it really? And just because people are yeah, there's studies done, and there's, for psychosis, this has been, like, even with multiple personalities and stuff, maybe it really does stem from evil working in a person that becomes physical. How I always said, like, the physical and the emotional go hand in hand. Like, if you're hurt physically, you can become emotionally upset. If you're emotionally upset, it can become your physical ramifications through the whole thing, and there's like a happy balance in between there, you know. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud. This is all very de-stressing because of to me, because I don't literally hear voices, but I sense forces of evil, and I sense God. I sense people, without them speaking. It's our senses. So what, then if that were the case, then everybody on the planet could actually be diagnosed with schizophrenia, because we all do hear instincts within ourselves. So I'm thinking to myself, how about these parents? If they had dealt with that in their young adult life, like we all do, and they worked through it, are they being honest, or didn't they realize what a spiritual attack towards them were? Or they're working for the dark force and they didn't have to go through that because they weren't attacked in that way. And that's kind of where I'm going with that. I see something in people when I see it. And so I don't know what to do or say, but I think there's people out in this world that will take advantage of their kids for whatever reason. So it's just weird. There's something weird going on here. Not with me. I don't know. So anyway, whether or not this young man realizes all that or not, and he might. Um, I wonder if there's anybody ever actually been cured of it. From what I understand, there hasn't been, but I don't believe that either. I still say and think it's a spiritual war that can become physical depending on what the kid or the young adult has been through, and whether or not they go out and try and self-medicate, and that would in turn make their life a whole lot worse, because still the spiritual war going on within all human beings is still present. Um, and I think that's perfectly normal on this planet that we live on. I do believe people are being instructed wrong in this area. I'm not saying the medication doesn't help. I'm not saying psychiatrists can't help. I just think there's another way to go about this, and recognizing that this is about when our kids are attacked, adolescents, young adults. I don't know. I don't know. It's just some stuff to think about, and consider for everybody, you know? Strange, you know? But how many people are going to admit that they hear, like, the thoughts of Satan, like, run through your mind? And they're not yours, they're just running through. It's like they just took a trip through your head, you know? And that's normal. How many people are going to admit that? I think it's time that more people start admitting that. The dual system that we live in and the different forces in there, good or bad, you know? But how can we get a handle on all this if it is being taught that it's something else? I don't know. And I'm not saying they don't care about their child or their young man there, his parents. But it's just strange. It's something weird going on with the whole thing. So, I don't know. I'm asking, I think I do have more than one mental health professional, doctors of psychiatry, and I know a doctor watches me, and I do believe even in other countries that they study psychology before they practice medicine. It might be called something a little different, or like in your residency, before you practice, and the training for emotional state within people, not just the physical, you know. I don't think I'm wrong on this. I've been observing this my whole life, you know, trying to get to the bottom of people that raised me and their psychotic episodes that I knew were demonic. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just so weird. It's all weird. Yeah, a lot to take in, especially, I mean, right now in my life. I don't know if my kid's okay. I don't know if he's going to prison. I have no clue. No clue. I know, I believe in the end that God's going to take care of them. Both my sons. I just hope I live to see it, you know? Yeah. It's really hard to uh, put somebody on this planet that you don't like, you know? I can't say any more on that, you know? It's where it's at, you know? Now, yeah, this person is said to have a mental illness. Doesn't excuse behavior that's uncontrolled and not monitored and putting other people in dangerous situations. That's, you know, the separation there. And if that were the case too, that would stem from the father and his family that were and had been in different institutes through their lives, starting with the grandfather. Should have started a lot earlier than that, like, but anyway. But generations of this stuff, definitely monstrous and psychotic, you know? So it doesn't take it away, is what I'm saying. I mean, if somebody's a dangerous person for whatever reason, I mean, you can't really like it. You can love the person. I love who my son used to be, you know? I can't say anymore. I can't say anything that's not true. I can't say, well, I love who he is now because that would be a damn lie. He's not who he used to be. He's not who I made him to be. And yeah, it is demonic. Anybody that knew him well before he totally snapped knows that he was capable of being one of the most loving human beings on this planet. And we watched him change. And I do believe it's the onset of drugs and alcohol and porn and all the rest of the bad stuff out in this world. You know, you are what you eat type of thing, you know. So if you're going to have a psychotic break, going against the Word of God is probably a good way. You know, you got your foot in the door, you know. Satan's going to help you, you know. And the war against good and evil, it is real. And I am really concerned about the psychological institution of doctors not implementing the Word of God in their practice. Or if they do, kudos to you. But the lack of God in emotional care for everybody, I think is a really dangerous thing. I think it's one more step to leaving people and children empty out on this planet on drugs, not understanding what's happening to them. That's my fear. That's really how I believe about it. So like I say, what does that make me schizophrenic too? Because I know the war against good and evil is real, and people that raise their son in the church should actually know that that's a real thing. And why don't they? Why haven't they ever been attacked like their kid was? I have been. Probably you have been too. That doesn't make us psychotic. We're functioning out on this planet. We've held jobs. We've raised children. We've done these things. So why is there a certain sect of society that is deeming the same symptoms we had as a mental illness, where I don't see that it actually is? I'm not saying that it absolutely is not true, but I was talking to Doug about this morning too, and he's pretty wise in the areas of the mind. If he wanted to really harm somebody's mind, he'd probably be the #1 person. Um, he believes also that probably 99 and 9/10 of the people that are diagnosed with schizophrenia are battling demonic forces. And this is coming from that entity. So I can't prove anything I'm saying. And that sounds a little psychotic within itself, but you know, I can't do anything more than tell you the truth of everything. So yeah, we watched our children change too, and we know full well that they had parents in their life that wanted to keep them submissive and at their level, not to exceed and not to teach their faults what they had done, but to pull their children within their faults on that same level so they don't have to feel bad about the shameful things that they actually did do in their lives. Because if they can get their children to join them in their ways, then they will not feel as bad about the things that they do out in this world, and that is demonically possessed, by the way. You know, and that's exactly how they want their children. They are out to destroy them. they think to keep them with them forever in that respect. But it's not like that anymore on this planet. And I want to wake more people up to the fact that I believe what is actually deemed a lot of mental illnesses is actually a perfectly natural reaction to the spiritual warfare that we're under that becomes physical within people. And I think that goes to a lot of like autism too. There's, everybody can fall a little bit on these spectrums of all illnesses. We have all these molecules in us from our forefathers and thoughts of things that they did. These are implanted on our DNA, you know. So, which is a code, and everything's coded. DNA is a code. It's a binary code of the male and female and the dark and light energy. Not that one is one or one is the other. Like one's good, one's bad. It may have started out like that. That's not how it is now. It's just different varying situations within each person of all that, you know. But there's still one side or the other who you are born, and who you resonate with, either God or not, you know. So, yeah. And looking at these people, and Steven, his dad's name is Steve. If you ever catch any of my videos and you if you care, if you want to take offense, hey, go for it. You won't be the first person, hardly. But also know that my heart is pure and my intentions are pure. And the battle against good and evil is a real thing. And the spirits that come after people are a real thing. And so I'm going to just say it like it is. I can see more potential of the Christ Spirit in their Son than I do the Father, from analyzing their personalities. The kid's got a cool personality. So, and the dad, not so much. Something's going on there that's weird. I don't know if him and his wife had been players or cheaters, or there's something entirely weird with the whole situation, and the kid is the one who is affected, now being 23 years old or thereabouts. So that's my analysis of the whole thing. Well, no, there's something weird going on there. I can only say what's on my heart. So if I just offended somebody, whether it be the Father or the Son, that's the way that is. I'll still stand on how I feel. There's no such thing as schizophrenia. It's the battle between good and evil going on within a person that is being severely attacked. And drugs might help keep it at bay. But taking God out of the picture probably isn't a wise move. I don't know. Because, too, my son was having a break here. He told me that I could go to hell. He said, I'm going to take you there. And I said to him, not the way you're going, Lucifer. And he stopped dead in his tracks, and he freaking looked at me out of the eyes of my son before the satanic spirit popped back in him. I watched it happen. I was here. I know what happened. I saw it with my own eyes. And the Word of God stopped him in his tracks for a moment. So I don't know. Of course, then if somebody's demonically possessed to the deepest parts of their being, like for instance, in correlation with my son and his father, at that point, the father probably would have tried to kill me and take me to hell physically, whereas my son stopped by my prayers within my heart. So I still see it's war against good and evil, and I know his dad wants my son to go crazy and to be possessed, so he's a low vibing crap piece just like him. And I know it for a fact. He's always been jealous of my kids. He hates them. There isn't any love there, but unfortunately, my sons think there is. I know better. I saw the look on his face when my children were born and the way he acted and or didn't act when he was supposed to, those types of things. I experienced it. They didn't. So they don't know. They're clueless. They might be becoming more aware on the situation, but I don't know. It's pretty weird. So that's what I've been doing. I was up till about, well, I did fall asleep. There was some lady talking that had gone into another video, but I was looking into autism and seeing a few different correlations between schizophrenia and autism also within the demonic realm that all mental disorders dwell in through our flesh. So, yeah, I had a night full of psychological studies, trying to get down to the bottom of it a little more. Because really, at this point, with my son's daughters and all that, and knowing full well that they're going to be attacked in that very same way, and how to prevent this from happening to them is a concern of mine. So, and I think that just touched somebody's heart. I don't know who, but I just had a feeling there that those words, somebody just, it hit home, you know, that this is a war against good and evil. And not just the physical being and what they deem to be an illness, I see as more attempted possession. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe his mom's in the Eastern Star and it is masonically connected. Like I say, there's something weird going on. And I can't pinpoint it right now. But I'm not going to give up. There's something. God put this person in my life for a reason now. And, when you get that feeling like you're on a case, it's like you're a detective and an investigator, and you need to get to the bottom of things to make sense of what was presented to you, it's like, And I have that drive in this situation for this kid now. Like I feel something I say is going to help him be more independent in his life because he's deemed to be mentally handicapped to the point where he can't help himself in the world. That's not a cool thing. Why wouldn't we strive to find something like the Word of God and His habits that make us healthy that will help these people on that spiritual level where they're being attacked, you know, and friends that understand that same situation because, like at this point, I could be called totally crazy, although I've had a psychological evaluation by the best in order to help my kids. And actually, there's nothing wrong with me aside from I had severe depression. Well, yeah, it's like if you get keep punched in the face 1,000 times, you're gonna get a little flippin' depressed, right? Especially if the person that did it you loved, you know? So that's a little depressive, but it's not a mental illness, you know? Like I could break your arm in half right now over my leg and you'd be flippin' depressed, let me tell you. And if you couldn't sleep because of the pain in your arm, well, what? Then they're gonna what? Call you psychotic? Because all of a sudden you're so tired you can't even see straight because you haven't gotten any sleep because you're injured, you know? And all those things play a role, you know? So I don't know. They live in California. I'm surprised they just didn't dress him up as a girl and cut his wee off and say, well, now you're all better, you know? Since you have so many people in your head, just claim a female one and we'll go with that, you know? These people are so weird. You know, really, really. But I see something weird in the dad. I guess there's videos with his mom on there. That might be really hard for me, but I'm going to find him and I'm going to watch it. And if it is what I suspect it is, I'm going after it, you know, whether the kid wants me to or not. And that brings a whole nother layer into the whole situation. But instructing people that father's perspective, psychosis, war of the gods, because the kid thought that the gods were warring and that he had to pick a side. He's absolutely right. So, wow, right? So see how the mental health care professionals are doing injustice to the psychosis of the people on the planet by not including God in the whole picture. Like I said, sure, medication can help. I had, I can't remember what they gave me, some stupid shit for depression. And it just made me feel worse. And then one of the side effects was suicidal thoughts. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm depressed enough. I don't really need that. But I took this stuff and it made me feel worse. I don't know. It's weird. And I knew a person that had been on Prozac for probably 10 years. And the dude really was psychotic. But once again, I believe a battle for his soul. He did die not too long ago here, but this dude drove two women totally crazy. His wife did kill herself. I believe that the evil entity that was controlling him totally, he was putting it mildly, a mind twisting, controlled type of person, you know. I don't know, hard to explain when you know somebody that's really psychotic and had been on drugs for a very long time. So he wasn't really actually out there killing people. Looks sort of like Charles Manson, but he wasn't actually out there killing people. But he drove two women, one to kill herself and one to almost kill herself. He liked me too. I'm like, yeah, stay away from me. You don't have a good track record, dude. And he told me that his wife killed herself. I asked him, why was that? Oh, I kind of knew. It's the weirdest thing. He came in this house one time. He knew Doug's ex too, and got down on his hands and knees in front of Doug and kind of. It was like he was almost asking permission to spend time with me, you know. And Doug's like, "Get off your knees, get out of here, freaking weirdo." But anyway, it just he was sort of like stalking me. And the last time I saw him, he was walking up my driveway and he said something about my horse. But the weird thing is, Doug had just left the driveway, and we live out in the country. There's not a lot of traffic. So Doug had just left and he pulled up. He didn't drive up into the yard. He left his truck down at the end of the yard and was walking up. And I told him, don't even come any further. Stay right there. Turn around. I said, you saw Doug just left. Get the hell out of here. And that's the last. He went to say something. I told him to shut the bleep up and get out of here and not to come back. Weird dude, though. But I believe that he got more psychotic from the drugs that they had put him on. That's what I believe. And I think he was demonically possessed to begin with. But I don't know, just studying people in my life that I knew were psychotic. I don't know. Weird. But anyway, I didn't take that medicine. I can't remember the name of the stuff they had me on. It was sort of like Prozac, but it was really common back in them days, about, say, like 30 years ago. Even my doctor prescribed it to me. Um, for my depression. But my depression was, there's no pill for sadness. I had so much going on in my life. My heart was so sad. I just didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And I tried their stupid pills, and it didn't do anything for me. It just made me really want to kill myself worse because I couldn't get myself out of the funk of depression without the help of God. I just started praying. That's all I could do. And that did help. That's really, that's all I can say, is trying to surround myself with people, like-minded people that had God in their hearts. and try and stay away from the ones that didn't. And that's really what helps me survive, you know. But they never could pinpoint a mental illness on me. And they do consider dyslexia a mental illness, but they didn't grow up with. I had books handed to me upside down on purpose and weird stuff like that, entirely on purpose to confuse me when I was a little kid, and different things, different tactics to try and twist my mind. And I wonder how many people these things happen to, um, maybe unknowingly, but I was able to come up with a system to read where I would see words weren't just backwards, and that would make it easier to read Sanskrit anyway, and which it did. But words weren't just backwards. I would see parts of words. When I get tired, it happens, and numbers are bad sometimes, but I will see parts of words inserted inside other words. Now, then I read a book on speed reading, and it helped me. I could take a whole paragraph and get the context out of it and go back and read every word a lot quicker from learning the speed reading technique. And I started doing that when I was about in 10th grade or so. And that really helped me. Before that, I did struggle. I'd read a lot. I mean, I read a lot all my life, but it wasn't easy. I really struggled with it until about the age of 11 or 12, somewhere around in there. It all started to make sense to me somehow. But before that, it was an absolute nightmare. Everything I tried to do pertaining to school or anything, it was a flippin' nightmare for that reason. But they consider that a mental illness. I don't. I consider it intentional design to go along with the head injuries and the different psychological attacks. And once I realized what was happening to me and what their tactics were, and then when I started learning that it actually was part of witchcraft, it's not a mental illness at all. It's intentional design to go along with what's coded in our DNA and the different tactics that Satan will use to get in there and implement his damage. And by the grace of God and with God's help, I pulled myself out of all that, you know. So it's not mental illnesses, it's evil. It's good versus evil. And this kid is still on track. He still thinks he has psychotic episodes of this war. That's absolutely true. And he's been being told it's not true. How's he ever going to recover out of that? Unless he comes to the conclusion that good and evil do exist within our minds and can be implemented by dark forces or people in our local area, not meaning us well for whatever reason. So what do y'all think on that? Or after all that, or maybe you're afraid to think. Yeah, join the club, right? But like I say, most people won't even admit that there's a war going on within themselves. They won't even broach the subject of hearing the voice of God or Satan running through you, you know? They won't. But it needs to be talked about more so we can help these people like that and recognize it before they go into it in adolescence, where their hormones are crazy, their thoughts are crazy, their spirituality is crazy. So, I mean, they're getting it, and now food and environment and culture and all the rest of weird stuff going on in the world where they're being attacked, you know? So, well, I'm going to let it go at that, and Doug's doing some grinding, which, excuse me, isn't a great big deal anyway, but I've got a few things I'm going to do while this is uploading, and I still see something funky with these parents. I'm going to let you know the outcome of what I think is going on because I saw what happened to my own kid, and I know what they tried to do to me, and I know the crafts that they use, like sorcerers. And why would they leave God out of the care of their child if they profess to be such followers? All these questions I have that I'm going to get down to the bottom of, maybe at least for somebody else's kid, even if they are not aware of how they're holding them back. And I see it. I do see it. I was just talking about that yesterday as far as like I had this one girl that I was a crew chief trainer, trained people to do jobs underneath me that I was capable of teaching them. So or crew chief leader is what they called me. So I took this handicapped girl that wasn't supposedly able to do anything besides clean toilets and taught her how to prepare food and do things that she didn't think she was capable of learning because she had been told she was handicapped and she wasn't. And it's not the first person that I've helped like that. And I've seen it a lot. And it's a real thing, And it's probably more common than we all know. I'm starting to think this is really, really deep-seated in our society. Just another tactic to, control people. So, okay, everybody, thank you for joining me. Give me your thoughts. Leave me a comment. What do you think? Do you hear voices? Are you brave enough to say there's a war going on within you? That's what's going on. All right, peace, everybody, and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. Have a good night or day, wherever you're at.